This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm not particularly productive, and I've seen Brian and Charles, a newish sci-fi comedy movie from British director Jim Archer. It's a bit of a mockumentary, set in the countryside of Wales and following Brian, a loner who spends most of his time making inventions out of scraps and scavenged materials. One day he has the bright idea to make a robot assistant using the head of a mannequin, a washing machine, and other odds and ends. Initially it fails, but one night after a thunderstorm he finds that this robot has indeed come to life, and not only that, but it can also communicate. Calling itself Charles, the two become friends soon enough. However, Charles also comes to express a strong desire to explore the world beyond his home, which frightens Brian not only out of his own reclusive nature, but also because of a local bully who is the terror of the community and who has always had Brian in his sights as it is. As it happens, though, Charles just may be the one to finally bring Brian out of his shell. On the whole, this is a pretty simple and straightforward story that sticks very closely to a basic plot structure and hardly deviates at all from anything otherwise unordinary. Pretty much anything that can be foreseen as happening does occur, and there aren't really many other surprises to be found here. This all said, the unassuming plotting leads the way to a very comfortable and rather wholesome experience, marked more by its magical realism and the general absurdity of it all, as well as how the various characters of the film interact with each other, and in Brian's case, his initial interactions with the documentary film crew. On that subject, that aspect of the film tends to come and go, especially as the story begins to focus on Brian and Charles themselves, and the film begins to take on a more traditional framing of events. Whatever the case, the greater comedic aspect of the movie is still its primary focus, and while the British humor may be a bit dry for some people, there is still a great amount of fun to be had. Personally, I started seeing the story as something like an old 80s movie, where the hero has a new best friend who is probably an alien and has to hide it from the local government or something. It's just that in this case, everybody is an adult. The point is that it's not exactly trying to be anything too deep or deconstructive. It's just a refreshing take on a classic story structure, and it doesn't try to be anything else. The technical aspects of the film are also what help to sell the irony of the story, putting much of its energy and focus into the visuals of the environment and contrasting the fantastical elements from the realistic setting. It certainly is a nice and cozy little town where the movie's set, and the location shooting definitely adds to the immediacy of events and the existential absurdity of Charles himself, itself. The aforementioned documentary approach comes through primarily in cinematography, of course, with handheld camera work and a feeling of being within a scene, with a few instances where the camera crew are directly involved. The film's editing and overall presentation keep up the documentary approach, with long takes during more frantic scenes and more traditional cutting during slower moments. Again, the movie kind of loses the documentary style as it continues, but even so, there isn't anything really lost from this choice. The overall story is still pretty fun, even if it's simplistic and predictable. But the comfort of both the setting and the ongoing situation seems like it's meant to be something made less to challenge audiences and more like something to give them a break from the rest of the world and just escape. At least that's how I see it. Brian and Charles, Jim Archer, 2022. 4 stars. I'd recommend giving it a watch. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. Oh, another reason I feel like this is an 80s or 90s homage, there's a rap song from Charles in the credits. That's a good sign that any movie you've seen is a comedy, mind you. Robot rapping.